29. So there's several different contracting opportunities coming up in relation to those projects. And so, we're talking about Southside Terrace Phase 2 specifically tonight, but there's also a lot of resources available that help you prepare for some of the future projects as well. So keep that in mind. Then I will go ahead and hand things over to Sam Neal, who will talk about the project.
Thank you, Alyssa. Thank you all for coming tonight. I was going to introduce myself. Alyssa's kind of already explained it, but I will be part of the management staff for Sampson Construction through this whole process. I've got a few other guys with me that also be involved with the management process. We are here to help and encourage you to bid. We've talked to a few of you with some questions with regard to insurance or what is needed for the bid or anything else. We are currently working on a project, Kennedy Square West, that we've had the same process, had some bids, are working with some Section 3 contractors right now, or any other contractors. We encourage you guys to bid. To my left is Connor Weiss. He will be the project manager on the project, and then Nolan Gotch will be the on-site project engineer. So if there are questions during the bidding process, I think everybody should have gotten a bid invite, but the bid is scheduled for 2 p.m. on December 19th. There's going to be a couple documents issued, which we'll call those, and Nolan and Connor will talk about a little bit more, but they're called bid bulletins or addendums that will be issued that may clarify some questions that may arise if you're looking at the bid documents. And again, if you do have questions, you don't want to bring them up tonight. We can hand out some business cards, or you can reach out to us, and if you want to ask them privately, and we get you the information you need. We might not have the answer, but we'll find it for you guys and do the best we can so you guys can provide us a bid. I'll turn it over to Connor.
All right, we're gonna go into a little bit of a project overview and just kind of look at everything on a bird's eye view. So what you're looking at up here is kind of a 3D model, kind of a layout of what the entire site's gonna look like. There's gonna be a demolition of all the existing buildings that are currently on the site now. Then obviously site grading, a bunch of underground utilities. There's going to be one 4-story multifamily residential building. That building will have approximately 64 units. There'll be 2 3-story walk-up buildings with 27 residential units. And then there's going to be 8 townhome buildings with approximately 24 residential townhome units. There's going to be a lot of other site amenities and some other improvements, some playgrounds. Go ahead and go to the next slide here. Here's an overview of the site plan. So obviously you can see building A. This is our largest building. I think it's roughly 80,000 square feet. Level 1 is going to be all resident units, management offices, community room, fitness room, storm shelter, and a plaza. There's also going to be elevator and trash chute. Levels 2 through 4, 1 to 4 bedroom residential units. Buildings B, C, Y, and Z. These are all going to be 2 to 6 bedroom residential units. So building C is obviously the second largest, and then building B over there in the corner, that's going to be your third largest building. These others in the green that are either labeled Y or Z, those are your smaller townhome units there. I'll let Nolan kind of walk you through some of the floor plans and talk about that.
Yeah, so like Connor said, building A is going to be probably the most to it out of any of the buildings. It has the elevator, a CMU, storm shelter, management offices, community room, and a fitness room. The majority of the other buildings are just residential units, and that's the same for floors 2 through 4 here. So as the render shows, it'll be on the corner of 29th and W. That'll be the building on the southeast corner. If you move to the next slide, floors 2 through 4 are just going to be basically the same thing. Some of the units are going to have balconies, but for the most part, it's just 1 to 4 bedroom residential units. And then moving to building B, it's a 3-story walk-up residential building. You'll have 13 overall units, like Connor was saying, and they'll range from 2 to 5 bedrooms. Some of the units will have walk-up front doors, like you can see on the sides, but the second floor you'll have to use the stairs to get to those units. And then building C is another 3-story walk-up residential building. It's basically the same thing, just a different layout as building B. This one will be on the northeast corner of the site, and we'll have 14 residential units. Building Y, these are the Y and Z are the townhomes. Each of the buildings will have 3 units. I think there's 6 building Ys on site. And then building Z would be identical, and there's going to be not identical, sorry. There's going to be 2 of these similar design in the townhome, where each of those units are going to be 2 floors. So we're not going to go too in depth with the site plans tonight, just because those are available on the online drawings. And if you guys have any questions about the layout or the overall design, you can let us know. But I guess no need to walk through the entire design of the building. So moving on to the scopes bidding. We're going to start with the existing structure demolition, everything that's on site getting demoed down and regraded, and then all buildings will be wood framed construction. The building shells, the siding will be fiber cement, but building A will have a modular brick veneer on the side of it, and all the buildings will have aluminum and vinyl windows. Building A will have a TPO roofing system, while buildings B, C, Y, and Z will have a pitched roof design with asphalt shingles. And then the following are the rest of the scopes listed that we'll be bidding out. Like I said, I'm not going to go through all those, but if you want to know if your scope is bidding, we have resources at the table where you can ask us if a certain scope is being bid out.
All right, I'll talk a little bit about the bidding requirements. So the original invite to bid was sent out on November 22nd. If you did not get an invite to bid, you can see us at the back table, and we can make sure you're added to that bid list. The bid documents, these are sent out from our estimating department. You should get an email via Smart Bid, or it'll come from Pat Clough in our office with a link to the Smart Bid. Like Sam was saying, we'll be issuing more information, or as the architects come out with addendums or changes to the drawings, these will be sent out via the same email link. You'll receive a bid bulletin or addendums. And then I will be fielding all questions for the project. So my email will be in there. This is in the bid documents. It's just connor.weiss@samson-construction.com. So if there are any specific questions on the drawings, or something doesn't make sense, or maybe there's some certain questions you have on the specifications or construction, you can send them to me. And if it's something I can't answer, we'll be sending them to the architects and engineers for answer.
We would appreciate if you do have a question, try and email it, just in the event that if there's a phone call, or if we miss a phone call, that we're able to respond to you, or make sure that we can follow up and respond to you through email if you have a question. Again, it can be any type of question. It doesn't have to be specific to the drawing. Throughout the bidding process or anything else, we're happy to help.
Yeah, if I don't answer my phone, it doesn't mean I'm ignoring you. But I try to get back to everyone, but if you can't, shoot me an email. That's the best option. Pre-bid meeting. We will be holding a pre-bid meeting. We don't have a time set, it looks like, but it's December 11th, 2024 here at our office in Papillion. This is off 114th and 370. I guess we will be sure to send out a time for that, probably in the next bid bulletin. or if you want to attend that, just shoot me an email and I'll make sure to get you the time for that.
A lot of the stuff that is being reviewed today with regard to the scope of the work and the overall project and the number of buildings that Nolan just went through will be very similar to what we do at the previous. Not a mandatory, you're more than welcome to come, but as I indicated, the time will be issued in the bid bulletin, and I would say it'll probably be issued this week. The bid bulletin will be issued. I know that the Ben and the design firm that's putting together will be issued, and we'll send that out with the bid bulletin. If that makes sense.
Yeah, so this will just be another helpful meeting if there are specific questions or maybe you need some more help. We'll be holding that at our office, like I said, December 11th. The actual bid date up there, December 19th. The bids will be due prior to 2 p.m. 2 p.m. will be the cutoff. We'd like to usually receive these electronically, but they can also be hand delivered to our office or faxed in, and the number is up there. And construction will start spring of 2025. We're hoping to maybe get demo started this winter. All right, so here's a typical example of what our bid form is going to look like. So basically, what you have here is your summary of work. You put your company name, your contact information on there. You're going to state whether this includes sales tax, but this project is tax exempt, so any permanent additions to this building will be tax exempt. You'll put your base bid proposal, so your dollars in there. You also write that in words. And then where it says bid bulletins and addendums down at the bottom, that is where you will acknowledge that you have received any additional bid bulletins that we've sent out. It just makes us know that you did receive those and you acknowledge that you received them and looked them over. Yeah.
If you are a final clean or planning on submitting a final cleaning number, which is a service fee, that is a tax that needs to be included in your bid. Just to keep that in mind.
On the right side, you'll see any alternates. So that would be if you're proposing some type of alternate product other than what they were specifying in the specifications or on the construction documents. Another thing we added here is breakouts and unit pricing on the right side. So you don't have to bid the entire job. This is 11 buildings. It's a very large project. If you're not comfortable doing that, maybe you just want to do the townhomes, or maybe you just want to work on building A or building B or C, or maybe you want to do a combination. You can break your bid out. Just make sure you clarify and specify exactly which building you want to submit your bid for and do the work. So we ask that you just clarify on this breakout and unit pricing area and specify which building you want to bid on.
I had a couple questions tonight a couple questions that came up tonight with regard to bidding the project, of bidding the whole thing or bidding an individual building or anything else. In the event, if you are a smaller contractor, or if it's something that you're not familiar with, maybe it's a scope of work that you're just hauling material or something like that, we are open to providing us that information. Maybe not, we can't necessarily write you a contract for that hourly rate or the unit cost for that, but we'll definitely share that with maybe another contractor that, hey, if you're looking for something, or if you're looking for this type of scope of work, this person you could call and maybe be a subcontractor or something, that we can share that with other contractors. So if that is something that, if you're a mason, for example, if you don't want to take on the entire project, or if there's something that you want to look at potentially joining with another one, or offering your services, please let us know so that we can help assist and get you in touch with the contractor, or teaming you up with the contractor or the contractors that get awarded the project.
And then here's just the last page. That's the email up at the top there, estimating@samson-construction.com. if you're sending your bid via email, which is probably the easiest option for you, you'll send it there. You'll date and sign. Next. So here's just an example of how you'd break out your bid. This is kind of how we have all the buildings labeled, and this is in the bid document. So it's pretty self-explanatory here, but you'll just write in maybe building A. You're going to be doing the CMU, or break it out per building Z1 or Y1 or Z2. And just specify which scope of work that you want to be bidding on. But this is just kind of how we broke it out. We thought it was the easiest way. It's color coded. It's labeled per building type. So each color represents the same type of townhome or the same building type. I'll let Sam kind of talk about some of the typical documents and requirements that we need to work on this job.
So in the event, if you're the successful contractor that gets awarded the project, Sampson Construction will write you a subcontract. Sampson has a standard subcontract we write to subcontractors and suppliers. If you'd like to review a copy of it, just reach out to Connor. He can get you a blank copy to review that. Some of the things that will be included in the contract that Alyssa is going to touch on is some of the Davis-Bacon requirements. For this project, they're referenced as or identified as exhibits. You can see on the sheet, we just kind of did some screenshots, but there's exhibits G and G1 through G9. Those are all part of, and they've been issued with the bid bulletin 1, makes up like 69 pages of all the forms that are required. There's a couple forms in there that requires signature and submission. And one of the things with these exhibits is prevailing wage, with this being a Davis-Bacon job. And we are working with a consultant that they're called Prevailing Wage Consulting. They will assist with making sure that there's a couple forms that need to be signed, that you're filling out your forms and getting those submitted. They will not do certified payroll for your company. That is your responsibility. There is also a software that we'll be using called Elation Systems that the city of Omaha likes to use, and that is something that, not saying that Prevailing Wage Consulting will do it for you, but they will make sure that you're filling out that information. Both of those systems are expected to be done if you are awarded a subcontract, and you have to follow those guidelines are a requirement. There is also a Exhibit H, which is the owner/developer supplemental instructions. Some of those things that are included are the processes for billing. We have Sampson's standard subcontractor. There's a certain date that we like to get thank you, Alyssa. If you're not familiar, but we like to get our pay applications submitted. It's on an AIA. It's called the G702 and G703. I'm throwing out a bunch of numbers here if you're not familiar with it, but it's a couple forms that basically, let's just say you're issued a contract for $50,000 there's a G703 that's called the Schedule of Values. You break out your scope of work. Let's just say that you're doing let's say you're doing the masonry on a project, that you might break out on your Schedule of Values what your material is, what your labor is, what your equipment is, and then that way, or you can break it out per building or anything else. Once you get the contract, or you get issued the contract, we'll work through those pay applications, but we like to get this submitted to make sure that we get the proper documentation, can submit it to the developer, I guess I should say Canopy South or Brenshore, and then typically that takes a process of about 30 days to get paid. Once we get that submitted, we have to review it, send it to the design team for review, then it goes on to the developer for them to review and then process the pay application. When we get paid, we end up turning it around in a few days and getting your company paid. There are some options out there if you are awarded a subcontract, that if you're having to buy material, let's say you're a painter and need to buy the paint up front, that you need some assistance with that. It's not that we will buy the paint for you, but we can do a joint check agreement that if you're working or buying your paint from Sherwin-Williams, that we can do a joint check that basically if you're buying that, we can assist with making sure that they get paid or you get paid and helping out with getting those materials procured so it's not an upfront cost to your company. Trying to think anything. Oh, stored material. If there is a stored material, there's certain forms that are required. Again, if you're buying brick or something like that and you're storing it at your yard or something, there's certain forms that need to be filled out, pictures and insurance and all that stuff that we can help you, or you can go through those things. But that's all listed in that bid form that, again, we'll be glad to help you through that process if you're not familiar with it, of just the normal send of the invoice through. It's once you get it, it's not a difficult process. It's just maybe a little bit confusing when you look at all the text on there. And then I think that's it. I'm going to turn it over to you, Alyssa, to talk more about kind of the exhibits.
Right. Well, thank you, Sampson team. So they have a table sitting right over there. Nolan is over at the table right now. So after we kind of wrap up with the presentation, that'd be a great place to go and look at plan sets and talk through some of the bid information as well. But just yeah. So there's time for questions too. Yeah. So just a couple highlights from what they said. The pre-bid meeting is non-mandatory, but it is December 11th at the Sampson location. And then the bids are due December 19th at 2. So I'm going to keep.
And the reason we require the bid to be provided by 2 o'clock and not later is it's to be fair to all the other bidders, so that in the event that a bid comes later, or just that it's fair. It's a fair process to make sure that everybody's bidding.
Great. So I'm going to then kind of give you an overview of Davis-Bacon and Section 3 and some other federal requirements. These programs, because they're federal programs, are often very detailed, but I'm hoping that if you're not familiar with these programs, I can give you kind of an overview tonight. We'll be available, our staff is available at the planning table to answer some questions about these programs, but we also can provide training on any of these programs at any point too. There'll be opportunity for training if you are selected to work on the contract. So Davis-Bacon then is a project, or it's a program that requires that contractors receive prevailing wages. And then there's weekly certified payroll reports that are submitted. And so workers are paid then those prevailing wages on a weekly basis. And then you submit a payroll report or form each week. Even if you're not working, you still provide a no labor payroll for that particular work week. So you'd work with the prevailing wage consultants, which Sam had mentioned before, and they would not do the payroll for you, but make sure that if you have questions or need assistance with some of the information requested, they would be the resource for you to contact. Then each project has what's called a wage decision. I left a few copies. We've got a few copies of those on your table. It looks like this. These are produced by the Department of Labor. Each project has a wage decision, which then lists all the various work classifications and the prevailing wage for each classification. So I mentioned prevailing wage a few minutes ago. So that is the hourly wage rate plus the fringe benefit rate. That is the prevailing wage. So each work classification, whether you're a carpenter or a laborer or a plumber, has a prevailing wage. So for a carpenter, for example, the prevailing wage is $47.08. So that's $30.50 is the hourly rate, and then $16.58 is the fringe rate. So fringe benefits, that could be an employee-sponsored plan that you might have as a business owner. So that'd be regular contributions to something like health insurance or retirement. There is an option there with Davis-Bacon that if you don't have that kind of plan, that's okay. You could still pay cash fringes instead. So again, the prevailing wage is the hourly plus the fringe benefit rate. If you look at the wage decisions themselves, they're not particularly detailed. There aren't a lot of job classifications on there. We provide it at this stage in the project so that you have an idea of what the prevailing wages might be. But if you notice, there are some wages that have not been updated in a while. There's a couple that are listed as maybe like a painter, for example, is still listed as $10 an hour. Most painters are going to make more than $10 an hour. And you also have to keep in mind that the Nebraska minimum wage still applies. So in Nebraska right now, the minimum wage is $12 an hour. In 2025, that's going to increase to $13.50 per hour. And in 2026, there'll be another increase to $15 an hour. So you want to keep those wages in mind as you're thinking about bid amounts and estimates for your project as well. Then looking at, I know we mentioned some of those exhibits. So in Exhibit G, you'll get a list and kind of a description of all of the requirements that are attached to this particular project as far as what the government's going to require of you. So some of these agreements, so every subcontractor, even a sub-tier contract, so a sub is still required to have a subcontractor agreement and have all of the required, all the items in Exhibit G are still required of your subs. Employee Classification Act affidavit, that is a state of Nebraska form that certifies that you're following correct employment practices. Then SAM registration or debarment suspension form. So for what we require is that contractors either provide a SAM certificate or we have a form that'll be in the subcontractor agreement that essentially comes from HUD, and then you would sign to say whether or not, like, they've got a low battery. Basically, that form then just says that you're not debarred from working on federal projects. So a contractor is required, you cannot be debarred or suspended from working on federal projects if you're going to work on these projects. And so that's why we're asking for that particular information. Yeah, I think we've got a low battery, so I don't know if we need to plug in something real quick. And then we also have to see your certificate from the state of Nebraska, just showing that you're registered as a contractor with them. We do ask for proof of E-Verify enrollment. So that could be either your signed agreement with E-Verify, or it could also just be a screenshot of your login page on the website. So we will ask for that information. And we do ask that contractors also let us know, if you're Section 3 business, we'll know that information, but you have an opportunity in your subcontractor agreement, if you haven't already, to certify as a Section 3 business. So there's another opportunity there in addition to tonight. We'll also track the participation of MBE and WBE businesses as well. And then as you're doing work and putting together your certified payroll reports, you will also be asked, if it applies, to provide a fringe benefit plan, so showing that hourly breakdown of your employee benefits. If you have special deductions, say there's a uniform allowance, if the employee themselves is contributing to their retirement plan, we'll just ask for that employee to sign a letter saying that they've allowed these deductions to happen. If there's an apprenticeship program, you have to keep in mind that in order to pay apprenticeship wages, you'll have to be in a Department of Labor certified apprenticeship program. If you have questions about that, please do ask as well.
You do not have to have an apprenticeship program.
Correct. Yes, that's correct. You do not have to have an apprenticeship program, but if you plan to pay apprentice wages, then you have to have a Department of Labor certified program. And we'll ask for documentation about that as well. If there's an owner operator, we'll also ask just for additional proof of business status as well. So going more into the general requirements for Davis-Bacon, we will have an orientation meeting prior to the start of construction. So we'll go over some of this information again and then go into detail on how to fill out those payroll reports, what information is required, how to get signed up in the software program. And we do utilize the Elation system. That's what Prevailing Wage Consulting will kind of work with you to help get set up, and then we'll be reviewing as payrolls are submitted, and the city planning staff will review those payrolls as well. And then periodically throughout the project, city staff will do site interviews. And so we have a pre-prepared form from HUD that will ask a series of questions just to verify that the information that is provided on the certified payroll reports is correct. And then there's always going to be somebody, a contact from the city, either myself or Zach Rosa, then who will look at the overall project compliance and kind of help point out any potential issues. Section 3 then is another program. This one is designed by HUD to look at making sure that when HUD has invested money into an area like they have with the Southside Terrance projects, that or the Choice Neighborhoods projects, that the people that live in the area also have access to any economic opportunities too. So making sure that people know about the project, know how to get involved, or have access to some of the projects as well. And so for Section 3, we look really at two different types of Section 3. We look at the Section 3 business side. We also look at Section 3 workers. So a Section 3 business, there's 3 ways that you might qualify. First is if a majority of your company is owned by somebody who's considered low income. And so we look at income, HUD has provided income tables on an annual basis for our area. And so currently in 2024, the individual income for a low income person is somebody who's at or below $61,350. So again, that's your individual income. So if you're an owner, your income is currently less than that, you would qualify as a Section 3 business, or your company would qualify as a Section 3 business. Second way would be if 75% or more of your labor force is performed by low income workers. And again, that's that $61,350 is that figure. And last way is if 51% or more of the owners come from public housing or receive Section 8 assistance. Section 3 worker then is, again, a low income person with that income limit at $61,350. It could also be somebody who's employed by a Section 3 business concern. So if you're already a Section 3 business, I think it's important to point out that that means that all of your workers then are considered Section 3 workers. And then lastly, if you have somebody who's a participant or a past participant in the Youth Build program, they'd also be considered a Section 3 worker. Targeted Section 3 worker is the third term I've got up there, and that is just a more specific type of Section 3. So this focuses specifically on, again, those employed by a Section 3 business concern, a resident, in this case, of Southside Terrance, or a resident of any other OHA managed property. And again, if somebody is a Youth Build participant. And so then kind of what that means, well, I guess I should go into the documentation. So we have documentation that we request. If you do qualify, we have certification forms for both businesses and workers available here. So depending on how you qualify, there are some documents that we request as part of the application. So I've got those listed. They're also listed on the certification forms as well. Section 3 reporting then is for each project. What we'll do is we track the participation of Section 3 businesses and Section 3 workers. The developer, the general contractor have been given benchmarks that they need to meet or are expected to meet as a result of the project. So 25% of the labor hours should come from Section 3 workers. 5% of the labor hours then should come from targeted Section 3 workers. So we're tracking labor hours over the course of the project. And each subcontractor will be responsible for making sure that we have received the total labor hours performed in a project, the Section 3 labor hours and the targeted Section 3 labor hours. So you as subcontractors would report on the labor hour information. Fortunately, with Davis-Bacon, we keep track of labor hours. So you'll have that information already as part of your Davis-Bacon payroll reporting, but you'll just need to identify who your Section 3 workers are at the start of the project. And so your Section 3 worker forms are also included as part of that Exhibit G. And then again, at the start of the project, we also, to kind of track our Section 3 participation, we'll have you fill out a Section 3 plan. And in that plan, each subcontractor then needs to provide your list of your total workforce, a list of the workforce you've selected specifically for this project, and if you have any hiring needs. And so if you are looking to hire, a couple of carpenters as a result of this project, for example, that plan is where you should let us know that, hey, I'm looking for Section 3 workers, I'm looking for employees. And then we can provide that information to Sampson and see if we could perhaps make some connections between Section 3 workers and potential employers. So that's why we ask for that information. And then we always encourage additional outreach and engagement to, as our efforts to train or identify other low-income residents to see if they might qualify for Section 3. So Section 3 is something that we're going to talk about throughout the course of the project. It'll kind of always be a topic of conversation. If you have questions about Section 3 at any point, you'll have resources to answer those questions as well. And so now we're into kind of the general questions section. Thanks for bearing with us. So if you have any questions about any of the items that we talked about tonight, we'd be happy to answer those questions. Yes, Gerardo. His question is, would you require a bond for bidding on the project?
The answer is it's not required. It all depends. It may be something that may be required, but it's not absolutely required for the submit a bid.
So if it's required, then would you reach out to those that?
Yeah.
Okay.
We would work. Sampson would work with you and work out the details with regard to the bond if we felt that it's potentially a need to bond. Yes, I believe the bid form has a line item for a bond cost, but you do not need to include a bond in your bid. And we can clarify that if it's not on there. It is. We have there's a separate line item for the bid form for an added bond cost for the project. You can fill out. Yes. In the next bid bulletin, we're planning on issuing a schedule. The anticipated plan is to start in the spring once financing is approved. The goal is going to, with the demolition will start grading construction, or the vertical construction will kind of get into the area of that larger building A and work in a counterclockwise direction is what we have planned currently right now. Started in May. So as an example, you show up to the job site and you work the month of May. I'm going to throw out a typical date. Typically, we ask that subcontractors submit a pay application by the 25th of the month. We'll get your pay application. We put a formal pay application through, send it through to the owner and the architect for review. They approve it. Once everything's approved and all the proper paperwork has been submitted, they turn around, send a check to Sampson. We turn around a couple days later and send a check to the subcontractor. Typically, it's a 30-day process. Sometimes it's quicker, sometimes it's a few days longer.
From the compliance side too, if certified payroll reports and other compliance documents aren't provided when you submit your pay application, can't pay you until the documentation is caught up. So you want to make sure that you stay on top of the weekly certified payroll reports and utilize resources like prevailing wage consultants if need be.
Yes, that's correct. And again, that prevailing wage consulting will let you know, that we're still missing one of the forms that needs to be filled out. When Alyssa was going over the wage determination, that is in the bid bulletin. I believe it's exhibit G3 that has the wage determination established. And then there's a couple other forms with the SAM.gov and the E-Verify that's also exhibits G4, G5 that you can reference as well. Something else I want to bring up, if you're not familiar with it, but if going into subcontract with Sampson, we require an affidavit. And that is, if you're not familiar with that, an affidavit is something that's required if you are, keep on using a masonry example, if you're a drywaller, for example, and you're going to be buying material that is in excess of $5,000, you're buying it from RSI or Rui or whatever it is, that we ask that you put the amount that you're going to be planning on paying, and that's a requirement. That is something that can also hold up payment that we need that affidavit filled out. We can help you with. We're not going to do it for you, but we can help you out with if you're not familiar with it. Yes. Yes. And once 50% of the project's completed, then that retainage can be reduced, but it'll be 10%. And then once the building is 100% completed, then retainage gets released, and we'll be able to release retainage to all the subcontractors. That's a good question. All of them are good questions. I know it's a lot of paperwork, but we really encourage everybody to bid the project. And if you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to you or to us. We can't promise you that you're going to get awarded the project, but we'll sure make every effort possible to make it fair or pass on your information to somebody else to potentially get you to be part of this project.
Yeah. We appreciate you all coming, and I know we've talked about a lot of different aspects related to the project. But fortunately, there are a lot of resources available to help you prepare for this and other projects. So we encourage you to kind of go around the room now and talk to any of the resource providers available at the tables. We'll be around as well. So I have one more question. Do you have a question?
That's yet to be determined. If possible, it could be none of it. It could be a portion of it that depends on what happens.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you.